Coming up tonight, a hit and run and a stabbing. A teen and preteen girls are now being questioned by police for two separate incidents. Plus, it must end. A group of concerned citizens and organizations rallying the nation to stop the sexual abuse of women and children. And later, it's double the fun this weekend. We've got a recap of Family Island regattas happening in Exuma and Cat Island. We've got these stories and more as our news weekend starts now. This is Our News Weekend. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Megan Shepard. A 16-year-old and her 27-year-old sister are in police custody in connection with last Monday's deadly hit-and-run accident. The Rupert Dean Lane residents are now being questioned by police in connection with the accident that killed a female pedestrian on July 31st. Acting on intelligence, officers of the Traffic Division arrested the duo and recovered the red Honda in bushes near Rupert Dean Lane around 5:30 p.m. on Saturday. Officers suspect the 16-year-old was the driver. Last Monday, police reported that 12:20 a.m., the victim was on the southern side of Wolf Road near Palm Beach Street when she was struck by a red Honda vehicle that was traveling west along Wolf Road. She died on the scene. Police released a picture of the car days after the accident in an effort to find the suspects and also appealed for the public to help identify the victim. Police are also investigating the circumstances surrounding a stabbing incident, and the details are disturbing. They claim the victim was a landlord who was stabbed by his tenant's daughter after being accused of sexual harassment by the preteen. It happened around 1:30 p.m. on Saturday when the 28-year-old landlord got into a physical altercation with his 27-year-old tenant and her 12-year-old daughter. During the fight, the juvenile got a knife and reportedly stabbed the man multiple times. Police report that before he was stabbed, he allegedly physically assaulted the 27-year-old pregnant mother and her daughter after the 12-year-old reported being sexually harassed by the landlord. The victim was transported to the hospital where he is listed in stable condition. The country is on high alert after a recent spate of rapes and sexual assaults. A group of concerned civic organizations, urging you to join the crusade against sexual violence involving women and children. The groups held their first rally on Christie Park Saturday. The National Neighborhood Watch, Crime Stoppers, Gang Reduction Intervention Program, International Men's Day Committee, and the Hannah Carey Foundation were among the many groups represented. Patrice Hannah Carey says government should consider more severe penalties to match the irreparable physical and psychological effects victims face.
Rape is something where it's not only physical, but it's emotional. You steal a part of someone that they could never get back. No longer should we have a slap on the wrist. No longer should there be deemed a 1 year, 2 year, 3 year penalty. Now it has to be a situation where a full example is set in our nation. When people see it, they will hear of it and shudder. And they would say they dare not go near it because this is what will happen and this is the consequence that our government has ensured to.
Apostle Henry Higgins, who represents the Gang Reduction Intervention Program and International Men's Day Committee, says the organizations got involved because the male voice is important. Although women and children are often the victims of sexual assault, Higgins says the entire nation needs to act now.
You will see us moving from park to park over the next couple of months, taking a stand, and the street taking a stand saying it's time to stop sexual violence against our children, it's time to stop sexual violence against our women. And we are calling on the entire nation to join us. There's no more time for Facebook comments. There's no more time for talking on WhatsApp and all the other chats. It's time for us to get up, rise up, and take a stand against this heinous act that is now trying to destroy our country.
The recent sexual assault of a 9-year-old girl in New Providence sparked law enforcement to raise the alarm about a noticeable increase in sex crimes involving minors. Our Marlena Leonard spoke with a certified child sexual abuse prevention advocate for advice on talking to your child about safety.
Creator and founder of Silent No More Bahamas, Cindy Gadet, is a rape crisis and certified child sexual abuse prevention advocate. She says one of the first things people should consider discussing with their children is that they have the right to make decisions about their own body. She also says it's key to encourage children to speak up if someone or something is making them feel uncomfortable.
Unfortunately, in this society, we don't believe that body autonomy for children ought to be a thing, because we teach children that they ought not question adults and that they ought not have their own will and their own feelings in relation to interacting with adults, and to do so is disrespectful. So that in and of itself creates a huge problem in really setting up our children to not have a voice in regards to their own bodies.
Gaudette says these conversations should start when children are as young as 4 or 5 years old. And while we're all familiar with the term stranger danger, Gaudette warns against that being the only lesson you teach your child, saying that in 8 out of 10 child sex cases, the victim knows their abuser.
First and foremost, what we need to do as adults is we need to educate ourselves about sexual abuse, sexual assault, the psychology behind these incidences occurring. We need to be able to look for the signs in children behaviorally, for example, emotionally, psychologically, acting out and whatnot.
And Gaudette reminds us that children hear everything, and part of what may make them feel safe enough to talk to you about someone that's making them uncomfortable or something that's happened may be tied to how you speak about others.
And our children hear these conversations. And so God forbid if something is happening to them and they hear us labeling another child as fast, or we're looking down on them and almost blaming them if something happens, they're not going to want to come to us. And then we get upset when our kids don't come to us, when most of the time we are not the type of people that our kids can come to. And that's our fault. That's on us.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Marlena Leonard.
Great advice. Thanks so much, Marlena. Meantime, rumors have swirled that there may soon be a new Governor General. The question was put to Prime Minister Philip Davis while in Acklands recently. Here's what he had to say.
Well, I think we're going to hear an announcement about that.
And now to a story we've been following. Deputy Prime Minister and Member of Parliament for Exuma and Ragged Island, Chester Cooper, responding to complaints from residents who tell Our News more needs to be done to tackle flooding on Exuma. Cooper notes the water has subsided in most communities, except for some low-lying areas in the Hearts and Steventon areas, where he says one resident is still impacted with at least 1 foot of water.
Local government has been actively involved. We've had a team from Water and Sewage in Nassau. I've personally acquired a pump to assist the government with the pumping because we recognize that this was a long-standing water on the ground, and therefore we've taken advice from the Ministry of Works and all of the agencies of government, and I can tell you that the response has been swift. Notwithstanding the swift response, we do feel the frustration and the pain of few of our residents who continue to have this experience of flooding.
Our News spoke to some Exuma residents on Friday who say since June 11th, they've had to deal with flood water settled into their yards, roads, and homes. The Exuma MP says he's communicated with all residents who have been impacted, and they're looking to see how they can provide relief for those impacted.
The job is not done yet. I've promised and I have committed to the residents of Exuma that I will stay working on this problem until it is done. I'm not an engineer, so we have consulted with the Ministry of Works. They've brought in their environmental coastal engineers. They've looked at this problem. They've done everything possible to mitigate, and we hope that in the future we would learn from some of these low-lying areas and be able to make adjustments in these areas as we move forward.
Now to watch that story again and for all of today's top stories, be sure to visit ournews.bs. And remember, you can share all of your favorite stories on Facebook from the Our News Bahamas page. Still to come on Our News Weekend, a group of young Grand Bahamians exploring the world of maritime this summer. It was all about options and opportunities. and what you need to know about protecting farm animals during the sweltering summer months. That's coming up when Our News Weekend returns.
Doctors Hospital is reimagined primary care. We have invested to improve our health system, ensuring that accessible, affordable, world-class clinical care is closer to you. Your relationship with a primary care provider shapes the foundation of your overall health. Our new, modern primary care facilities are where critical diagnosis and true personalized treatment begin. With locations across New Providence, Grand Bahama, and Exuma, we invite you to experience the Doctors Hospital difference. Book your next appointment at clinics.doctorshos.com.
The second edition of the Nav Bahamas Just Kids Summer Camp, geared towards students in the 8th through 11th grades, wrapping up this past Friday. Director Erica Roberts says the 24 campers were exposed to many occupations throughout the maritime industry, including less explored options.
Navigation, like basic rules of the road. They also went through seamanship, teaching them how to do knots and hitches. They also learned how to do whipping with the knots. They also participated probably 3 to 4 days with the bonefish companies here on Grand Bahama. They taught them how to fly cast, fly tie. And then they took them out on the beach to demonstrate it, as well as they went in the boat to show the different spots that they go to do the bonefish.
Robert says students were very receptive to the information and instructors. They were also able to tour several of the industrial and maritime companies based in Grand Bahama.
There is so much job opportunity in maritime that a lot of the kids don't know of. And we stressed that with them, where we took them also to Buckeye, to Intertech, the lab company there that deals with sampling of the products. So that's one job that they didn't even know exists. So it's opening their eyes and minds to different things in the maritime so that they can focus towards finding a job in those areas.
Bone fishing guide Omiko Glinton is 44 years old and happens to be one of the youngest in the industry. He says he is passionate about this field of work and wants more young people to get involved, or he fears it could become a dying industry.
What amazed me was they were so green, or they just did not any idea about the industry. The first time some of them seeing a bonefish fly or seeing someone break the fly cast down to them was this at this camp. And so a lot of them was so excited, like Ms. Roberts said. If you ask them which set of days they enjoy the most, they're gonna say the days that they were on the water or on the beach or fly casting, because it was just something completely new.
We're deep into the summer months and it has been extremely hot. For those farmers and gardeners who may have been looking for ways to keep their crops and animals cool, owner-operator of Local Organics Limited, Tiffany Dennison, has some advice. She says for those with chickens, egg production usually decreases.
We make sure they have a lot of shade, unless you're willing to put AC in your chicken coop. Fans and stuff are helpful. Not everybody has electrical to their coop, so of course again shade, lots of shade. And chickens are very good at finding dirt to dig in. They like to take dirt baths, and they will lie in cool dirt for the afternoon in the shade.
She says eggshells also become more fragile.
I've noticed that over the last 2 years, because we feed a lot of layer feed, obviously to bolster calcium and protein for the shells, and they're hard. Like, you can throw them at somebody and they probably won't break, but literally in the summer you can be washing an egg and put your finger right through it. So it affects the egg production.
It's the oldest regatta in the country, and it's happening right now in Exuma. The Our News team is on the ground taking it all in, and we're bringing it all to you. Plus, the Cat Island Family Regatta also underway, the nation's leader on hand for the official opening ceremony. We have those exciting details when Our News Weekend returns.
If new, Heineken Silver was a riveting Viking saga.
Last the 12th, your family tortured my first wife and stole my second favorite goat. Now you want to marry my daughter. okay.
All the taste, no bitter endings. Smooth, fresh, silver.
Welcome back. The 67th Sloop Sailing Regatta underway in New Bight, Cat Island. This year's theme is honoring Cat Island's first Prime Minister while celebrating 50 years of independence. On hand to accept the special honor and officially opening the regatta was Prime Minister Philip Davis. He says regattas are so important because they foster competition, produce world-class sailors, and boost the local economies.
It's a kind of tradition that brings us together in fellowship and community. It's quite remarkable that this regatta is in its 67th year. We have been an independent nation for 50 years, but we have known our way around boats even longer.
Minister with responsibility for Family Island regattas, Clay Sweeting, also attending the regatta.
Regattas have a special place in the hearts of all Bahamians. They provide an opportunity for sailors to use their brains and their brawn to glide across the finish line and to hear the thunderous admiration of spectators. Regattas not only highlight sailing, but it also boosts the local economy, creating opportunities for local artists and craftsmanship to show their skills.
And he was not the only cabinet minister to attend. Deputy Prime Minister and Tourism Minister Chester Cooper telling Cat Island residents that more opportunities are on the way.
And let me tell you, tourism is looking good in Cat Island. We're 69% ahead of last year. We got great investments in store for Cat Island too.
Prime Minister Davis was also presented with a special model of a sloop. Following the official opening, it was time for the fun, as Prime Minister Davis also got in on the action, briefly joining the Rake and Scrape Band. And hundreds of people also flocking to Exuma this weekend to take part in the 79th annual Rollville Regatta and Homecoming under the theme, The Legacy, Our Future. The event has made a name for itself over the years, being one of the oldest regattas and homecomings in the Bahamas. We caught up with Deputy Prime Minister and a Member of Parliament for Exuma and Ragged Island, Chester Cooper, at the official opening.
I like this regatta homecoming. They have great onshore activity. The teams here work very cohesively, and we bring back the old-fashioned culture of these communities. The plotting of the maypole, the climbing of the greasy pole, the sailing. And this is a good sailing community. From generation to generations, they continue to train their sailors. So homecomings are great, not just for the culture, but also for the economy.
Now, this year's event was named in honor of the late George Smith, former Member of Parliament for Exuma. Cooper describes him as an icon in that community.
He loved Rollville, he loved Exuma, and we loved him. So we are happy to be able to honor him in this way. We are consistently looking for even more tangible ways to honor his legacy. On September 22nd, we are going to have a full memorial right here in Exuma to recognize his 29 years significant contributions to the growth and development of Exuma. I point out, as a young man, he went to London to negotiate the Constitution of the Bahamas along with Sir Lyndon and the team. That's no small feat. George Smith, not just for Exuma, but the entire Bahamas, was a big deal.
When we come back from the final break, hear firsthand how a new innovative surgery helped one woman return to a life of normalcy. Stay with us. for sticking with us. As you prepare to enjoy the rest of your holiday weekend, here's a look at your weather forecast to help you prepare for the week ahead. And tonight we wrap up our series on uterine fibroids, the condition that affects 80% of women in our region. Shagira Popel is one of those women. She says life was normal until she started to notice a change in her menstrual cycle.
I came for my annual right here at Family Medicine, and they diagnosed that I had a the size of a 3-month fetus that was causing all of the bleeding. And so at that point, you know, we talked about surgery and so on and so forth, but I didn't want to do another surgery. I already had 3 surgeries. So at that point, I opted to just deal with the pain. But unfortunately, medication I was taking, it didn't alleviate the pain at all.
And unfortunately, that has been the story for many women who would rather live with the pain than to have invasive surgery. Popel says her symptoms were so intense, it often interrupted her daily life.
For me, I like to exercise, I like to work out, and I noticed I was getting tired a lot, fatigue. I didn't want to be bothered, I didn't want to come out of the house because of the pain during that time. So when I started to notice that, I said, something is definitely wrong. I was always also told that I was anemic. Now I understand why, because I was losing a lot of blood.
That's why she found interventional radiologist at Family Medicine Center, Dr. Mikhail Higgins. She then opted for a fairly new, minimally invasive procedure known as uterine artery embolization.
After the procedure, I had to ask Dr. Higgins if he actually did anything, if he touched me, because I didn't feel anything. But there was the incision in the groin. That's the only way I knew something was actually done. And so after that, I came out, I think, the next day, and 2 weeks, home for 2 weeks. I didn't feel any pain at all.
As for how she's been feeling since the procedure,
like myself again, normal. My husband is happy, like Dr. Higgins said, because the spouse, you know, is painful. Everything was painful, but now I'm good, I'm normal. Like I told Dr. Higgins, he is a godsend. For women who thinking of living with it, there's no need to. Because my concern too was having a hysterectomy, even though I don't want any more children. But like he said, the femininity part of it, I opted for the uterine fibroid immobilization.
Awesome news, and thank you for joining us for our news weekend. On behalf of the entire team, especially those enjoying the Family Island Regattas, I'm Megan Shepherd. Have a safe and wonderful evening.